Hey everybody, welcome to the Bandits Show. We're back just after week 4 of the NFL here, and this week I'm going to be doing something a bit differently. Obviously, you can see that I'm not being joined by anyone, so I didn't want to just talk about the games that have just happened and work my way through that. I feel like that would have been kind of boring, but I've got some stuff to talk about. I've got topics to talk about. My first thing is I want to talk about how the NFL sort of changed, like the landscape of it. So, if you remember that before the season, the Bandit Show, we actually did season predictions for the AFC and we did season predictions for the NFC. Predicted division winners, division losers, that sort of thing, playoffs and Super Bowl. And I want to talk about how that's changed in just 4 weeks' time. That playoff picture that we created has actually changed, not as drastically, but drastically in some aspects. And one way that I want to start is I'm going to talk through. So this is the AFC. This is now after 4 weeks of the NFL, the AFC teams that I think are in the playoffs. I've got Kansas City. They're going to win their division. I feel like Baltimore are still going to win their division. Buffalo going to win the division, and the Titans are going to win their division. But in the wildcard places, I have the Browns. I feel like the Browns are really coming up on something, and the Browns are going to capitalise, and they're probably going to be about 9-7, maybe 10-6, and they'll probably get a playoff spot, and they'll get a playoff game. It's the first time they've been positive on record in quite a few years. Looking good, a great game against Dallas where OBJ popped off. And then I have Indianapolis, a team that I didn't think would make the playoff spot. They're now in. They're looking a bit better now. Week 1 was a bit shaky. Phillip Rivers in a new system. The Colts, though, they've got a defense that looks good. Their offense is starting to move a bit more. They are without Mel and Mack in the running game, but they've seemed to sort of work around it quite well. And that's why I have the Colts now making the playoffs, which was a team that I didn't have before. And I think and then I have another team, because obviously we have 7 now in each division, in each conference, sorry. I have the Patriots actually making the playoffs now. I think I had them falling very low. They've just had quite a bad game against Kansas, but then again, who doesn't look quite bad against Kansas? Also, they were without Cam Newton, who's very clearly the firepower for this offense now. He's had some great games since joining them. He had a great game week 1. Week 2 against the Seahawks, he had a great passing game, and then he's really making it work and he's making it seem good. Won't surprise me if New England actually stick with Cam Newton for the foreseeable future, at least for a few years. It seems like something that's plugged up the gap where Brady was. Obviously, he's not Tom Brady, but they're winning, they're moving the ball. No, you can't ask for much more. Now, the NFC, I actually have a change in one of the division winners, 2 of the division winners, actually. So in the NFC North, I now have Green Bay. I think Green Bay are going to win that. They seem very promising, they seem a lot different from last year. Like, they're putting away games. They're not sort of waiting for teams to catch up. They won a lot of one-possession games last year. They're beating teams quite convincingly. And then I have Seattle instead of the 49ers. I think they were a lot more competent. I do think that they've got a lot of problems. The secondary isn't that good at the minute. We're just waiting for Jamal Adams to get back and they'll start, looking a bit more competent on that side of the ball. They've got no pass rush, really. They're not really pressuring QBs that well. And they do have a bad O-line, but they have Russell Wilson. I've talked about Russell Wilson last week, and Russell Wilson's my pick for the MVP at the minute. Russell Wilson plays hero ball every week, and he's going to continue to do so and make sure that Seattle get that playoff spot now. Whether they'll go to a Super Bowl, I think they're missing a lot of pieces that it takes to win a Super Bowl. But this is a year where I think anything could happen, definitely. I mean, until recently, The Bears were undefeated, so anything can happen this year. And then I have the Cowboys winning their division. I feel like they've got the most firepower. As much as I think Carson Wentz is a lot better of a QB than Dak, they've got the firepower. They've got a running game. The defense isn't too great, but they're going to win. They're going to win a lot of games as shootouts, and they're going to put a lot of points on bad teams. They are 1-3 though, and the NFC East is by far the worst division in the NFL. And I think everyone can see that. They're struggling. Every team in there is struggling. We've got two teams in rebuilds. We've got the Giants and we've got the Giants and we've got the football team. We're currently in rebuilds or some form of rebuild. And then we've got the Eagles who are struggling with cluster injuries again. And the Cowboys have a great receiving core and a good running game. And I feel like they'll win that division just because they'll beat the Eagles at least once. And I think that's what's gonna push them over the top of everyone. And then I have, instead of New Orleans, I actually have Tampa winning their division. I think Tampa looks strong on both sides of the ball. Tom Brady had 5 passing touchdowns this past week. In a fantastic game, overcame 17-point deficit. The defense is stopping people, stopping the run, stopping passes. The offense is humming. We've got Ronald Jones, who seems to be doing quite well. He's not catching that well, but that's where sort of Leonard Fournette will come back in and take over. Sort of, he can do a lot of catching out of the backfield. They've got a good wide receiving core, something that Tom Brady's not had in a long time. He's definitely making the most of that. And then the wild cards change a bit. So I do have New Orleans in the playoffs. I feel like when Michael Thomas gets back, New Orleans are really going to step up and they're going to start beating teams again. Now, they might even challenge for the top of the division with Tampa, and Tampa might go into the wild card spot. Alvin Kamara, since getting paid, is looking fantastic this year. And then I have the Rams. I think the Rams are quite competent this year. They definitely seem to be having a bounce back. They're beating good teams. The game against the Eagles, they seem to run over everyone. They have a great running game like the 49ers did last year. They have 3 running backs who can run. They have corners who are shutting things down. They have a great wide receiver core. Jared Goff's always going to be, a very competent QB, and he's able to make the right decisions, make the right throws. He can throw on the run, play action. He's really sort of making it known that he thinks the Rams are a good team and they are possibly even, up for a deep playoff run. And then I have, in my last spot, I think I couldn't really choose. I have the Cardinals and the Vikings in the last spot for that playoffs. I feel like the Cardinals they've had 2 bad weeks. They're probably going to bounce back. Kyler Murray just needs to, Kyler Murray really needs to sort of step up now. He needs to know that this is his team and he's going to have to work the ball himself and work them up the field, and he's going to have to start winning games on his own. DeAndre Hopkins is obviously there, but it's going to have to be a lot of Kyler Murray, I think. And the Vikings, I feel like the Vikings are doing rather well. Dalvin Cook's really stepping up. Kirk Cousins, he's sort of failing in places like he always done. He's a good, medium average QB, and he does rather well with a great roster. Justin Jefferson's really stepped up. You've got Adam Thielen, who's always been a good target, who's getting more of the ball since Stephon Diggs left. But yeah, they're my sort of 2 slots. And then I think, last night I was speaking to my brother when I was watching the Green Bay game, and he says he was talking about Super Bowl, and I thought, this is weird now because the people that we put down for the Super Bowl a few months ago were New Orleans and Baltimore, I believe, and this is it. Like, this has changed so dramatically that I wouldn't even put Baltimore in that. I'm not going to put Baltimore in that bubble to win a Super Bowl this year. I feel like they've come up against one good team and they got shut down really hard. Now, I could be proven wrong in a few weeks. Obviously, we're only 4 weeks into the season. But I feel like, so I've got some Super Bowl contenders. These are my people who I think could win a Super Bowl this year. I've got Green Bay. I think Green Bay could win a Super Bowl this year. The defense is a bit lacking, but obviously this is a high scoring year. People are putting a lot of points up. Defenses aren't really stopping people that much. I feel like Green Bay are going to do it. Aaron Rodgers looking fantastic. And Green Bay are one person who could win a Super Bowl this year. And then you've got Seattle, like I've said, Russell Wilson. The Chris Carson is good out the backfield. They do have a lot of holes that need filling. Maybe they can make some deals mid-season like they did last year for Jadeveon Clowney. And then we have, I was going to put New Orleans, but I've put Tampa. I feel like Tampa are way more consistent. They've had one bad week, and that was week 1, which was a new system. You know, Tom Brady, I mean, he's thrown a pick 6 this week, but he's still Tom Brady. He's still winning games. He still threw 5 touchdown passes. He came over the 17-point deficit. And they were great on defense. Once Leonard Fournette gets back in, you know, he's now had 4 or 5 weeks to learn this system. He's probably going to be doing rather well, like we saw in week 2 when he did really well week 2. And then from the AFC, I feel like there's only 2 teams that are competent enough to win a Super Bowl this year, and it's Kansas and not Baltimore, Buffalo. I think Buffalo are actually really good this year. The defense looks good. Josh Allen is playing unbelievable lights-out football, passing deep. Stephon Diggs has really been a massive help to that Browns offense. But then, so this is that's the top end of the NFL, and that's the playoffs of the NFL. What I want to talk about is the teams at the bottom, and it's these teams at the bottom who have coaches that could lose their jobs. Now, we know that coach firing season is now open, with Bill O'Brien being fired from the Texans. No job is now safe. This is it. We can start, going through the mill and who's on the hot seat. So what I wanted to do is say, I've got some coaches, and I'm going to rate on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being they're going to get fired probably within the next few weeks. 1 being sort of they're completely safe. I've got 4 coaches. I'm going to start with Matt Patricia. Matt Patricia took a Lions team that was consistently 9-7 to being a bad team, like a really bad team. It's the defense that's messing up. He's a defensive specialist. These are all signs that just aren't good. I feel like this is now the time. You've got to get someone fresh in. Matt Stafford's still got a couple of years left. If you want to work with him, you can probably even trade him away for some good draft stock. Someone will take him on board. So I feel like the Lions, this is no time. You've got to change something now. Change something now, and who knows what the future may hold. And then I've got Doug Marrone at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, I've put Doug Marrone, Matt Patricia was 8 out of 10. I've put Doug Marrone at 5. Now, I don't know whether Doug Marrone will actually get fired this year, because they had those 2 weeks where they've won games and they looked very good in week 1. But he is working with a lot of bad to sort of average talent on his team. But this seems like a decision that should have been made a couple of years ago. Now, whether the front office at Jacksonville feels the same way and feels like he should go, this is where I sort of get confused. I don't know whether they feel that way. They might feel like he's still their guy who's going to do what they want. But I feel like Doug Maroney's one of those who could, with a few more losses this year, could end up, higher up the scale. He's at 5. I've got him at 5. I don't know whether that's sort of a 50-50. He could get fired in the next few games. He could get fired at the end of the season. He could stay for the next year. And he could be in charge of this rebuild that I believe is going to happen in Jacksonville starting next year. And then I've got Adam Gase at the Jets. Now, Adam Gase has struggled really badly as a head coach. He's destroyed the relationship with Jamal Adams at the Jets. He's not winning games. He's got Sam Darnold, and he's wasting great talent in Sam Darnold. He traded away his one receiver last year, Robbie Anderson. He doesn't seem to understand what needs doing. And I think this is affecting Darnold more than it is Adam Gase. I think Adam Gase's stock died a few years ago now. I think this is just hurting Sam Darnold now. I think Sam Darnold he's got to get out of New York. And whether someone will give him a chance based on what they've seen is very different. This is a guy who needs good coaching, but I don't think he'll get it, unfortunately. If he does ever get it, Sam Darnold, I think, will be great. But this is awful, this. Adam Gase is ruining a young career, and not many people are making a peep out of it. People are just strolling by. They're like, yeah, he'll get fired, but they don't realise that he's hindering a career of a QB that could become something great if he had the right coaching. I have one more. I have Dan Quinn with the Atlanta Falcons. That's a 10. He needs going now. They've not been right since the Super Bowl. His defense can't hold on to leads. He's a defensive specialist, the same as Matt Patricia, and they're blowing games completely. Last night against Green Bay, they didn't look competent in any way, shape, or form. Nothing seems to work. Since Shanahan left, nothing's worked whatsoever. The Atlanta Falcons need to make a change from coach. They need to get rid of that coach. They've got talent to work with. They've got Julio Jones. They've got Matt Ryan. They've got Todd Gurley. They've got stuff to work with. And again, it's being wasted by sticking with Dan Quinn. Just because he took you to a Super Bowl once doesn't mean he's going to do it again. This is it. He's done. He's got to go now. I've given him the 10. So I have Adam Gase at 8, Doug Marrone with a 5, Dan Quinn with a 10, Matt Patricia with another 8. My coach is in the hot seat at the minute. Maybe this list will grow over time. In the next few weeks, there might be another few coaches that get chucked onto that list. We'll just have to see. Now, the next topic that I want to talk about, going into this year, we had a few teams. That were rebuilding. They were starting a rebuild or partway through a rebuild, and what I've done is I've got three teams that are in a rebuild. I'm going to talk through some points of them. So I've got the Bengals, and one thing that's great for the Bengals is Joe Burrow looks good. If he had the right help, which I think will come over a few years, I feel like this rebuild's going to be a longer rebuild than most. He's going to have some firepower in the next few years. Tyler Boyd stepping up. He's got AJ Green still. Mixon finally stepped up this week, and he looked brilliant in the game against the Jags, but it may just be the Jags. He's finally got his first win. He got very close to having one in week 1 if it wasn't for a bad kick, for a mess up there. Now, it still needs work. Like I've said, it needs draft picks and he needs a better O-line, although the O-line has improved. He was only sacked one time this week. It needs work. He probably needs a better O-line. He might need another receiver soon, because I think AJ Green's, he's not got loads left in his career. The defense is what needs work. As soon as that defense can start stopping teams, Joe Burrow will start winning more games. He's made some great plays. He's sort of done what Sam Darnold does. He's showing flashes of greatness, although he's doing it, and he is being a lot more consistent than Darnold in playing well. Now, what I'm doing is I'm going to give a grade for them. I feel like this rebuild is very solid. It's a good starting point. In the next few years, they could become a contender for the division, but they are in a very, very tough division where the Browns are good, the Steelers are good, and the Ravens are very good. And they're going to struggle. Now, I feel like over the next few years with this rebuild, the Steelers are going to drop off in quality. I feel like Big Ben's going. There is a chance for them to start sliding in there, and all you need is a good record now, and you're in the playoffs. There's 3 wildcard spots. Joe Burrow and the Bengals, I'm giving a grade of a B. Then I've got the Panthers. Now, the Panthers have just started their rebuild. The rebuild will sort of continue into the next year. They'll be considered a properly rebuilding team next year. You could see that they were rebuilding the defense. They used all 7 draft picks on defensive players. It still needs a lot of time, but they've got a good wide receiving core. Robbie Anderson looked good this week. They've definitely not been helped by the fact that Christian McCaffrey has gone down and he's not going to be back for a couple of weeks. But they're still looking competent. They're winning games. They beat Arizona at the weekend, and Arizona's a good team, or at least we think is a good team. And Teddy Bridgewater, Teddy Two Gloves, is exactly what we expected. He's making the right decisions. He's throwing good passes. He's now a veteran presence, and he's not going to make that many mistakes. He did have 1 interception at the weekend. He was 26-37, 276 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. The first week against the Raiders, they should have won, I think, but Matt Rule made a bad coaching decision, something that was sort of out of Bridgewater's control. This is a team that's going to gel, and I feel like towards the end of the season, they're going to look a lot more sort of competent. They're going to look a bit better. They might still lose games, but they're going to lose them in a less convincing fashion. They're going to keep teams close, I feel. And then finally, my grade for the Panthers at the minute is a C. There's a lot of work that still needs doing. This will sort of progress over the next few years. And then I've got my Dolphins. It was no secret that the Dolphins were rebuilding. We had a lot of campaign for Tank for Tua last year. We didn't really tank. We built a culture. Is one way I feel like we look at it. We still finished the season very strong. Now, watching a lot of Dolphins football, they seem to have improved in a lot of aspects. The fact that they've even won a game at this point now. Last year, that would have been unthinkable with how bad they were in the first few weeks. They've improved in so many areas. The pass coverage better, linebacking calls better. I feel like the pass rush is better, but it still needs work. We need to pressure more. There was 3 sacks on Russell Wilson at the weekend, but he does have a bad O-line. The thing is, the Dolphins are now losing games based solely on quarterback play. Ryan Fitzpatrick has had 2 games this year where he's not thrown for a touchdown, but he's thrown multiple interceptions, and that's what's losing games. I mean, the red zone offense needs a lot of work in the sense of they really need to put touchdowns on the board rather than field goals. This was a winnable game at the weekend. It was all field goals, and that's what's kept us away from the winning spot. Let's just say that the Dolphins do have good coaching. Brian Flores looks like a real up-and-comer in the NFL. He looks like in a few years he's really going to build winning teams. This has obviously got at least another year or so of work, no training camp, no OTAs. It's going to be weird, and I feel like in the next few weeks the Dolphins are really going to hit the stride. However, I do believe that this is sort of your time. I understand if you want to get the game of the San Francisco game out of the way. I know they're banged up, but it's still San Francisco. They're still quite competent, good coaches. I understand wanting to get that game out of the way, but this is sort of, let's get Tua in now. What do we have to lose? If Tua's bad, then we can just. If Tua's bad, then we've got Houston's pick. Houston are very close to the top. We can get a Justin Fields or a Trevor Lawrence. We can, and if Tua's good, then we can trade that pick away for loads more. We can really, we can really use the draft to build, and that's what I feel is good about this team. But this is, I think, Tua time. I think they play the 49ers this upcoming week, and I feel like it's the Broncos after that, and the Broncos are very banged up right now. This might be the time to say, then it's Tua's time. I think Tua will play this year, and it's going to come earlier than we all think now. My original prediction was sort of week, I think 8. I think we play Arizona, and then it's the Jets, and then the Jets, and then we play like a couple of bad teams, and then we play it's the Bengals, and then by the time we play Kansas City, Tua would have had 4 starts under his belt. But I feel like this is it. Let him run with it. We don't have anything to lose now. Let's go for it. And not to be too biased, I'd give the Dolphins a B. I feel like the rebuild is as good as the Bengals at the minute. It needs work. But I feel like the Dolphins can work on theirs faster than the Bengals are going to work on theirs. The Bengals is going to be a couple more years than the Dolphins rebuild will be. Now, this is it. I feel like I wasn't here last week to give my offensive player of the week. I wasn't there to give defensive player of the week or my fantasy award out. So I'm going to do that before I move on to my last topic. I've got my offensive player of the week. I've got 2 of them, actually. I've got Justin Herbert, who was 28 to 25 pass attempts, 3 touchdowns. He did have an interception, but he's looking very strong, putting up great passing yards. He had a passer rating of just under 140. I think it was 138 passer rating this week. And I've also got none other than Odell Beckham Jr., another offensive player of the week. OBJ with 3 touchdowns. He's on runs. He's getting passes thrown to him by Jarvis Landry. The Browns stomped the Cowboys. And the Cowboys almost came back. I've got to admit it, they almost came back. But the Browns deserve to win that game. And these OBJ is one of the reasons I believe they're going to go quite far into this season. They're going to get a winning record. They're probably going to go into the playoffs. Now, defensive player of the week. This was sort of hard this week. There wasn't that many sort of great tackling performances, and especially for people who don't get a lot of media attention, which is what I said I was going to do. I was going to find people who didn't get that much media attention, sort of, and try and give them the spotlight in this. So I've got the defensive player of the week for me is Josie Jewell, a player for Denver. He had 2 sacks and 2 tackles for a loss, and he also had another 8 tackles. I feel it was a good performance against the Jets. But that's my defensive and my offensive players of the week. And then Lucky Bastard of the week goes out to someone in the Wigan Bandits fantasy who I believe got lucky this week this is just based on the premise that every single week in a fantasy league, someone gets stupidly lucky because they pick someone up off waivers and they have a massive game. They've had to start a player because someone got injured, someone who was going to sit on the bench most of the year, and they have a massive game. But Paul Bennett is going to get Lucky Bastard of the week because in his team he had Dak Prescott, who got 37 points in our fantasy league, Odell Beckham Jr., who had 38 points, and George Kittle, who had 40 points. That's 3 players making up most of his points, and it was probably going to be enough to win his game this week if you are looking to keep up with the Bandits Fantasy League. Go to our Facebook, follow us on our social media. Everything goes up there. Before I move on to my last topic, just remember that the audio version of this is on Spotify. And yeah, so here we go. Last topic of the week is the Green Bay Packers. And I want to move on to this because so last night I was sat here watching the Packers game, and they were beating the Falcons convincingly. And one thing that sort of dawned on me over the past few weeks, I've already mentioned him last week, but Aaron Rodgers is looking very good. He's got that chip on his shoulder again. He looks competent, an MVP candidate, I called him last week. And he's got receivers that are stepping up and making plays. They have the tight end who got 3 touchdowns last night, Tonyan. Aaron Jones is a top-class running back. Great out of the backfield catching, great running. Last year he was tied with Derrick Henry for the most touchdowns in the league. This is a team that can go on and make a deep playoff run. And this is sort of what I was discussing with my brother last night. They've got a bye week this week coming. Devontae Adams will be back after that. But one thing that sort of my brother said to me was they need better receivers. And I've always hated that argument because Rodgers has Devontae Adams. Rodgers has Aaron Jones. Valdez-Scantling, who might be a bit inconsistent, but he's a good wide receiver. Aaron Rodgers has everything he needs there to win. So why was it everyone saying, oh, Aaron Rodgers needs a first-round wide receiver? No, he doesn't. Russell Wilson's got Tyler Lockett. Yeah, there's DK Metcalf now, but how long was Russell Wilson winning games without any real wide receiver help? You've got people, Tom Brady. Who's Tom Brady had in his career as a wide receiver? Wes Welker. Yeah, there was the year he had Randy Moss. Julian Edelman. What? He doesn't have that top-class wide receiver there. There are people who win games, and there are so many quarterbacks who win games without someone as good as Devontae Adams, as good as Aaron Jones in your backfield. This all comes down to Rodgers, who I think over the past 2 years didn't seem like he wanted to play. And this chip on his shoulder has done everything that Rodgers needs right now. He's found a love of the game. He's smiling. He's joking on the sideline. He's putting up big numbers. He's proving that he's still got something in the tank. He can still play. But like I said, this all comes down to Rodgers. As long as Rodgers doesn't slip back into old habits, such as the eye rolling when a player was called, the disrespecting of the coaches, sort of being hard to be around, then they can win this. I feel like the Packers could make a deep playoff run, but I'm sick of the argument that he needs another first-round wide receiver. He never needed a first-round wide receiver when he got Jordy Nelson. Did he? He was passing to Jordy Nelson, he was winning games. No one made the argument, oh, he needs another wide receiver. Because he doesn't. But you know he doesn't. It's just that Rodgers didn't want to play, and Rodgers was bad for a few years. This is it. This is Rodgers giving us one last run of greatness, and I feel like he's going to prove it over the next few weeks why he has been called great and why Green Bay can win, and he doesn't need that first-round wide receiver. Green Bay can win a Super Bowl this year. Whether they need some slight work on defense, this is probably the year where they could do it, just through a weird year that it is. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for watching me, guys. See ya. Hey, everyone. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to like and subscribe for more content from us. And check out all of our social media links down in the description: Spotify, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Remember to watch all the other content on the Bandits Show. And see you next time.